Oh man, this rust on the front end of my smoker and the back end here too, just awful. This is no good. The smoker, which I love, deserves better than this. We need to try to fix it, so come along for the ride. Hey now, this is my Pit Boss 700 FB. I love this pellet smoker. I've been using this for several years now, all the time with great success. I love the quality of this unit and the customer service and warranty. Now, the only thing that Pit Boss doesn't warranty though is the finish on the exterior of the smoker. And what I've been told by them is that rusting and the paint flaking off here is something that will happen with almost every unit, simply because of the high heat that this experiences at the front and the back, just along the bottom part here. So this is something that I need to deal with here right away. I've sort of been putting this off just because I'm lazy, but I need to deal with this here just so that the rust doesn't get further into the metal and possibly risk compromising the actual smoker itself. Now, before I actually begin this project here, I just need to get everything out of the smoker, starting with removing the pellet, removing the grates, my currently very dirty protective layer of aluminum foil, the heat deflector, and of course, as usual, vacuuming out any of the ash that is in the bottom of the smoker. Then let's not forget the grease pail. Now I want to set the smoker upside down here so that I can remove the legs and work with this underside. Now I do want to protect the top end of it, so you'll want to have something soft on the ground. I actually have a couple of pieces of old hot tub cover that is destined for other parts here right away, but this is going to be a perfect thing to lay this down on. Now this did take two people to flip upside down. Fortunately, I've got some good helpers around here. Now I should mention that there is an upraised piece on the top of the smoker. That's why I've got two pieces like this, and that can just sort of sit in between them. And now I'm just going to remove the legs and keep very careful track of these bolts here. So I got all the bolts removed from all four sides. Legs are removed. Now a person might not need to actually remove them if your space is not quite as widespread as mine is, but because it was in fact over here getting just a little bit underneath that leg and also on the front here, I wanted to get them out of the way so I had no problem removing the paint and the rust. Now, depending on the extent of the rust on there, a person could use perhaps a wire brush or even some of these wire brush attachments that you can just add to a drill. I've got a box of these here. However, what will certainly be quicker is an angle grinder with this brush attachment on it. As I was saying to my buddy Rob earlier today, of course, safety first, right? Now the trick here is to not just get rid of that paint, but to get rid of the rust and get right down to the metal as I've got here. So I am going to do that for probably the whole bottom half of the smoker along the back side here. Now while I do have the rust off of this back part here, I found that as I was moving beyond the rust, there were traces of it underneath some of the adjacent paint. I'm actually going to clear off this whole part here just to ensure that it's painted and nothing's going to flake off, because the last thing I want to do is to get what looks like a half decent job done and then have to redo it again next year. Now I do have this strip of tape along here. I'm going to use that as a bit of a guide because I'm trying to keep this relatively even so that it almost looks like this is an intentional design for the smoker. Now pretty quickly, and I realized that that wire brush wasn't going to take forever just because of the sheer amount that I'm trying to get rid of, so I just switched up to this other disc here, and this is really making quite a bit quicker work of the job. So I'm pretty happy with this side here. I just need to kind of tighten up along the, well, what I guess is actually the top of that side. And then I'm going to flip this over and get on the front part. And here we are, all finished up for that angle grinder action. Not too bad overall. Now there is some pitting that I can see here that I wasn't really able to get through on the front end of the smoker, which is too bad sort of for the long term. However, this is going to help a lot for at least the next while. Now, unfortunately, it's not really possible for me to replicate the pebbling kind of pattern that the original paint has, but I am going to use some very high heat spray paint here. This is actually engine paint. As you can see, it goes to a very high temperature where it's still good, and I mean, this is also designed to be used in all sorts of like oily, nasty, probably even humid environments there with an engine, so this should be good for this. And then I just have it taped off here a little bit as well. So I have that first coat on and it is drying here. Now apparently with this paint I need to wait for an hour before I can recoat. I gave the smoker about 4 coats or so of that spray paint here. Now I just need to actually get this tape off of here. One other thing to mention is that I did wind up finding some rust spots here, so I just sort of ground that off and sprayed almost the bottom half of the smoker over on the side here as well. And now we're just going to reassemble the smoker by getting the bolts back into place. All the bolts are replaced. Now we just need to flip it over. Now we're back in place. So now all that's left to do is actually fire this up and use it. I had the smoker fired up here for a while just to burn off any potential spray paint that might have made it into the interior of this chamber. And now, just taking a look at it here, I really am quite happy with how this looks. Like I said, there's just the slightest difference here in the matte finish to this finish. Also, we've got like a little bit more pebbling here, and this is more smooth. However, it looks way better than the rust that was on there, obviously. And we know that this is now protected, and it's just going to give this smoker life for years to come. Now with the smoker all painted up, patched up, got this little pork strami roast that I just put on there. It'll be delicious. Really excited about that. And of course, I'm just happy that I don't need to be worried about my smoker here. So there you have it. Not a super complicated procedure, especially if you have like an angle grinder and you're able to kind of work with that, get some really good high heat paint on there and keep your smoker looking great. So until next time, keep it at 11.